In the layers window, the main functions, you've got your effects, your masks, and your adjustments. If your image gets too big, there's too many layers, you could always add a folder. And this button right here is to create a new layer. This one's to delete a layer. So I'm going to start by going over masking like we did before. So I'm going to click Layer Mask. I'm also going to demonstrate the adjustment layer. To edit a mask, you would click on this part of it over here. This is your image. So that'd be editing the image. Clicking over here is editing the mask. You can tell by your properties changes. There's the image. There's your mask. That's how you know what's selected. Over here is the mask for the adjustment. And this is the adjustment. So you can always use your properties window to know what's going on if you can't see what you're clicked on. But you can always also see the little selection around what you've got for what you're working on. I'm going to add some type. With type, if I click over on this side, it'll open up the layers styles that we went over in week 4. If I click on this part of it, not that part, but this part with the T, that's how you select your type. And you can change your color up here or down here. I'm going to make my text black. And I'm going to accept that change. The reason you can't see it is because it's beneath the top layer. So if I click and drag, you'll see little bars appear showing where it's above or below. Right now you can see the gray bar above the eye icon. That's how I know it's the topmost layer. I'm going to adjust the leading in between this, so I'm going to want window character. Okay, that's what I want. So if I wanted to put a layer style on this, I would double click in here on this side of it, not in the text box. I'm just going to bevel it. And remember, you select here to get your effect. I'm going to up the size. I'm not going to soften it. Increase the depth of it. I want a hard chisel to it to give it a more angular look. And then I'll give it a drop shadow. You can change the spread, the distance. You can see what's going on right now. This isn't very pretty, but this is an example of changing. You could always click here to hide your effects. I clicked over there to hide them. Clicking on this side of the layer window opens up all my blending options. And just a reminder from last week, if I change the fill opacity on that layer, you're going to see the effect and not the color of the type. And if I click over here on this side, that's to edit the type. And with my layer, if I click on this side, you'll see the selection around it. This is to adjust my mask, and that's to adjust my image, clicking on that side. Same with your adjustments. Clicking on this side will adjust the mask, and this side will adjust the adjustments. Let me turn off my effect. When I turned off my effect, I'm going to put back up my fill opacity in the blending mode. On a Mac, it's holding down the command key. On Windows, it's probably Control. So I'm going to hide this. Now I have just a selection. I'm clicking on my mask over here, Now you can see there's black in the mask. I've selected out away from the image. Now if there's something behind it, you won't see it. So if I want to edit my mask more, I can use any of the selection tools. So remember, if you've got the mask selected and you switch your color, black or white, to fill back up, that's how you keep your image from being distorted. Now, with my adjustments, I'm going to want to use the same mask just to demonstrate. So I hit Control or Command on the keyboard to select this. I'm going to go to here for my mask. And for the adjustment, I'm going to darken it. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to delete this layer. So I've got my selection. When I make my adjustment layer, it'll use this selection as its mask. So now we're going to do curves again. Now you can see it has the same mask as what's above it. I'm going to darken the midtones. And the area that has the mask is not being affected. If I wanted to invert the mask or add to it, I'd edit it the same way. Switching from black to white. Again, you can see how the mask is changing. So that's editing the mask. This is editing the effect. If I want to change, remember it starts shadows, midtones, highlights. So say I want to crush the shadows some more, I can click and drag over that way. If this was a red, green, blue image, you'd see you could edit the various colors that way. I'll show you with the other document. So once more, clicking on this side, you'll see this has the selection. That's for the mask. See the properties change. That's the mask. Click on this side for the adjustment layer. Now it's showing the adjustment that I'm making. And again with the type, if I click on this side, double click on that side, it'll pull up the layer styles. If I double click in the T, it edits the type. With the mask, always remember, you can edit your mask however you like with whatever shape or brush. Change it to... Now we're seeing what we're doing. All right. Remember, that's on the mask, but if I click on here, I'm going to be editing the image. You can silhouette out. See, I have it on the image. Now I'm on the mask. We want to be on the mask. You could use whatever you want to silhouette out. You could use your lasso. This has a feather. That softens the edge. If you're using brushes, you can double click here, edit your size. You want a smaller size brush, maybe about 20 or 30. I'm going to give it a hardness of 100. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Got my brush. If I click and then hold down Shift while I'm clicking, there we go. Okay, now we got it. So I'm going to click, hold down Shift, and you can get a curve that way. Another thing I want to show you is the flow. If you want to treat this as an airbrush, I'm going to open up another image to make that a little easier to see. Hide this. I've got my layer. I'm putting my layer mask. And I've got the mask selected. Now I'm going to use a brush. And this time, I'm going to make it a big size brush. Very soft. Here's the opacity of what I'm deleting. Here's the flow. I'm going to make it 10%. And let's try 30 opacity. Now when I click and drag, I'm getting a softer selection. We'll make it bigger. Yet still. I'm going to start going into the hair a little bit. And then over here, I'm going to keep selecting outside, but I'm staying further away. Now I'm double clicking on the edge out here, and then a little bit softer here. So I'm having less opacity, well, I'm having more opacity here, but then as I get further away from the face, I'm using the airbrush to make the background more transparent. We'll put this layer behind it. We'll scale up the face a little bit. Okay. I'm dragging it behind. Now it's beneath it. I'm using my move tool at the top to move it. We'll move the layer above it. Like this. Now you see we still have this edge here. So I'm going to go back to my mask. I know my mask is selected because of this, as I demonstrated. Go back to my brush. Let's try this. Oops. Okay, that's what was doing it. See, I'll switch to here. Remember, always check your foreground background color if what you're doing isn't working. Switch my foreground background color again. Up my opacity and change the flow. Now it's going to start taking out more faster. As you can see, you're starting to see more of the face. Bring it back in that way. So it's just balancing the flow, the opacity, making sure you have the right color selected, black or white, and the image is not damaged because I've got a mask. This is a good way to get some collage effects going for either your ad poster or your movie poster.